with great respect and love, I welcome you all here this morning with all my heart. Wonderful to be sharing this precious time with you once again on this very poignant morning. Driving up this morning, the candle lights in the driveways, a reminder of the sacrifices that so many have made. We live with our lives punctuated by hope and fear. No doubt, hope and fear have their place, have their function. But when we're beholden to hope and fear, they deny us the full experience of the present moment. A friend of mine once said to me, "Hope and fear drive fortune from your door. Lose yourself and they will be no more." Our minds are constantly jumping ahead of the present moment. We're hoping that this may happen or that may happen, and then we fear that it may not happen or something else will happen, and we completely lose our experience of the present moment. It's said that life is what happens while we're making other plans. We're thinking about the future, and in the meantime, we're experiencing something very special and very precious. So, can we find the courage to let go of our tendency to always project into something that isn't the here and the now, to want something that we don't have? Living fully means living in the moment, experiencing this moment completely with all our faculties. And the experience of the now gives us a sense of fulfillment. We seek happiness. Everyone seeks happiness in life. But happiness and pleasure are very different. Pleasure is not happiness. Pleasure and its opposite, pain, are two sides of the same coin. So we seek pleasure, and immediately the mind fears the absence of that pleasure, and the fear of the absence of that pleasure itself is pain. And so the mind cycles through this grasping and clinging, trying to hold on to the pleasure and trying to avoid the pain. And yet these two opposites are just part of the natural flow of life. So living fully in the moment means realizing the transitory nature of our existence here. We can't hold on to anything. Everything passes. Life teaches us this lesson, whether we like it or not. Eventually, of course, we have to let go of our own existence, of our own physical existence. And this is the greatest test of our learning to ungrasp, to let go, to uncling. So should we refuse to live because of fear? Should we refuse to dive into this experience of the world because we fear what we might lose? That's just attachment in another dress, in another form. Thinking that somehow we're going to avoid suffering by not experiencing life itself is attachment to avoiding what we think may be pain. And yet that avoidance itself shrivels our experience of life. So instead of that, we learn the skill of non-attachment, non-grasping, not gathering all our experiences in and trying to hold on to them as if we wouldn't exist without them. Because we are not our experience. We are not our body. We are not our mind. We are something else. We are something that is a witness to all of this. Our suffering in the world is not pain in the same way that happiness is not pleasure. Pain is inevitable. You touch something hot, you pull away. It has a function. But our suffering comes from trying to hold firmly onto something that is a flow, a process. So we need to learn to let go. We need to stop resisting change, allowing this change to wash over us, to experience it fully in the moment without projecting, I hope I can have more of this, or the fear, oh, perhaps I won't have more of this, or what happens when this is taken away from me? I'll be lost, I'll be empty. All of that needs to be relinquished, let go. And then we bring ourselves into a full experience of the present moment, whatever we might be doing. Digging holes in the dirt, serving food, enjoying a meal, being with our beloved, finding companionship in life, learning to separate and unite. All of these come to us naturally through our practices, our spiritual practices. So pleasure and happiness are very different. Happiness is described in the yoga texts as santosha, contentment, finding a place where we accept the nature of reality, that everything is passing. How do we experience this? What is our consciousness? Consciousness is not something that exists within our brain, but rather what's described as the all-pervasive knowingness. So our existence arises in consciousness. Consciousness doesn't arise in existence. Existence, this physical universe, arises in consciousness. The all-pervasive, all-knowing consciousness. Call it what you will, divinity, God, whatever you like. Shiva, whatever you like. However you conceptualize it, it's everywhere. Every molecule, every tree, every plant, every animal, every human being, every stone, every leaf on the tree emanates this consciousness. Consciousness is that in which the universe arises and subsides. So, should we be concerned about how many lifetimes we have to lead before we reach full realization? There's a beautiful little story about a teacher who had two disciples. And the one disciple came and said, Guruji, how long until I reach enlightenment? I've been practicing now for 20 years, every day, faithfully, doing my meditation, doing my yoga. Surely I must be close. And the Guru said to the disciple, you see that peepal tree over there? It was a beautiful, huge old tree. However many leaves there are on that tree, that many lifetimes, and you'll find liberation. And the disciple was downhearted and despondent, and he went away disappointed, and eventually gave up his practice, thinking, I'll never reach the goal. And the other disciple was sitting, listening to all of this, and the Guruji said to him, are you not interested to know how many lifetimes you need before you reach enlightenment? And the disciple said, no, Master. I'm perfectly happy to have this lifetime in order to sing your praises. And in that very moment, the disciple reached freedom, nirvana. So it's the projection of the mind that causes us to be stuck. In Patanjali Sutras, on that question, we don't know what our previous lifetimes were, or how many lifetimes we have, until we experience directly that knowledge. Chapter 3, verse 18, Samskara Sankatara Purva Jati Jnanam. By the practice of samyama, the threefold discipline of pratyahara, dharana, and dhyana, and by the direct perception of our tendencies, knowledge of our previous existence arises. So it's quite possible that through our practice, we come to a direct perception of our previous lifetimes and our future lifetimes. But that's not what's important. What's important is that we learn to live in the moment and allow the experiences of life to completely fill us, to be absorbed and lost in them with a sense of joy and happiness and appreciation for whatever life brings us. And so our practice leads us to this state of mind, to this state of alertness, of constant vigilance. Through our practices, through our meditation, our breathing, our asana, we allow our awareness to be firmly embedded in the present moment, learning this skill of restraining the mind from its tendency to always project outward, turning the mind inward, pratyahara, finding inner space, the bliss of our inner self. So let's begin our practice this morning by chanting the Om mantra 3 times together. And this is a direct path to pratyahara, to that inner awareness. Sit comfortably, relax your body, and become aware of the rhythm of your breath. Breathe out and into your lungs. Breathe in deeply and chant together.